Alright, so I am doing an overview, not an in-depth review, but an overview of the rule set Die Kriegskunst, Wargaming in 7 Years' War, by a collective of authors called Tricorn. Their names are listed a few pages into the book, based on General de Brigade, as it says, and it's a brigade level set of war games rules. I got this copy from one of the guys in the club. We were emailing about 7 Years' War, and he recommended this to me and sent me this copy. It was published by Partisan Press. It came out some time ago in 2008, so it's been a little while, and I think you can still get hard copies of this. I'm looking for one. I think I saw one on Noble Knight, but it was a little pricey. It's $40 or $50, I think. And there's also a way to buy a PDF for $30 US on Wargames Vault, and I'll put that in the video description if you want to check that out. I think I'll want to get a hard copy eventually. So if you, I think, I'm kind of coming off of this from playing General de Armée, so I'm going to make a lot of comparisons, but it is based on General de Brigade, which was the set of rules that GDA is based on. But I think they have different authors, I think, GDA and GDB. But obviously it's adjusted from Napoleonics to the kind of linear warfare of the 18th century. Here's the table of contents, so you can kind of your standard stuff. I think for wargaming rules it's a little long compared to some other historical rules, at about 61 pages, but not too long. And it's designed for 15 or 28 millimeter, and specifically, I think this is kind of important, it is not intended for the other kind of theaters in the conflict. So the 7 Years' War in the Americas, the French and Indian War, or in India. The stuff in India is interesting to me. I hope there's a good book out there that covers that in detail. Kind of one of those historic turning points that kind of gets unnoticed. The French getting basically kicked out of India permanently. Anyway, and then it also says, or allowing you to wargame battles of the Jacobite rebellion. And it says, if these rules prove popular, then we may widen the scope to cover these other conflicts. And this was published back in 2008, so I don't know, maybe if they did that, I'll have to check up on that and see. It gives I think, a pretty easy basing system, whether you're doing 15 or 28 millimeter. For me, I'm probably going to do 15s whenever I get to my 7 Years' War project. But you have fairly flexible. It's one figure is 40 men, one artillery piece is 4 artillery pieces. It's pretty flexible. You don't have to rebase, just as long as the frontages for both sides are roughly equivalent, and then it gives some diagrams how to base things, equipment, gets into troop types. One thing I did find interesting is that it doesn't really differentiate between the different nations of the period in Europe, so it doesn't really, the only thing it kind of makes allowance for is that the Prussians are a little bit better at kind of marching, and the Russians are a little bit more, have a little bit better morale, the Russian infantry. But it does state that the leadership in the period for like kind of more junior officers was not very effective. I'm not sure if that's true. I don't really know this historical period that well, but yeah, I think what I'll do is go to uh, the the turn structure, because that'll I think go over what that'll get into kind of the rules a little bit better. Let's go to chapter 4, the game turn, on page 18. And I have to say, another nice thing about these rules is the font is a good choice. I think that's kind of underrated in Wargames rules, having a nice readable font. I like this one. I like, um, and it's pretty clearly typeset. You know, nice two columns, um, and everything is kind of numbered well. I think that's another good thing. All right, 18. Let's go to that. So got kind of standard stuff with setting up the game. Then you have the turn, and this one's kind of cool because you've got some things that are simultaneous and some that alternate. And if you're familiar with General de Armée, currently the phases are pretty similar. You have initiative, you have command, involuntary moves. So this covers like if you have to retreat or you have a route. Your cavalry have to advance. Then you have charges. The charge phase first, then movement, then firing, then melee. One thing with the command that's interesting in these rules is your commander-in-chief assigns an order to an entire brigade, and units within that brigade cannot take a different order. And I'm wondering if that's to reflect kind of this period, because I was reading recently, I finished a really good Maria Theresa biography, and it touched on how the warfare of the period, the officers and kind of the military theorists wanted to have very kind of strict kind of geometrical movement and good, command things in a kind of rationalistic sort of way, even though, the same book discussed the Austrian Pandor sort of skirmish infantry who did not fight that way at all and were pretty dangerous to be around if you were the enemy. But anyway, that's another tangent. But I'm wondering if that's kind of what they're trying to get at, is that that the line infantry was expected to behave pretty kind of strictly, according to what was ordered, rather than allowing for kind of and officers to sort of take initiative on their own. But I'm not really sure. If someone maybe in the comments knows the period better, you can explain that, because I'm not quite sure. That's just my guess. Anyway, and then you got pretty normal stuff. You have firing, melee, and charge. You have the command rules. And I think, like General de Armée, there's just a lot going on here. Like this is, like I said at the beginning, this isn't going to be like a detailed review. This is more just like an overview, because I didn't see anything on YouTube about this set of rules, so I thought I may as well share it with you. And then I think I'll skip ahead to the one thing before we get to the play sheets or the reference sheets in the back is it does have some nice examples of play, which is always good in illustrating what the rules are look like when you're actually running them. Some terrain rules, and then stuff about skirmishers. uh, morale. There are some optional rules for flank marches, field fortifications, things like that. And you've got some historic orders of battle. Then what I want to do is just get to the, which has some nice maps in it. Here we go. Here's the 15 millimeter play sheet. I think it's kind of accurate that it's called a play sheet, not a quick reference sheet, because this is really dense, which is both good, that I think you can pretty much run the game just with this. You know, if you like playing in the club or something, and you want to make copies of this and hand out. At the same time, if you need to look at something fast, you got to kind of read everything through and read through a little carefully. So it has one for 15 millimeter, and it has one for 28 millimeter. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's pretty complex, I think, or more complex than kind of black powder or kind of the warlord systems. Although it's not really a high bar to clear, but definitely a little more in depth. And there's all the orders you can do, and you have all the other rules presented right there. And then it also has in the back some tokens you can print and copy, which is nice. It's got them for all the major, got Prussia, Russia, Austria, and France. And then you got the status markers, which is pretty similar to General de Brigade. I think unformed, I know that's in General de Brigade. Anyway, fairly similar, although this is brigade level. And then there's some info in the back for these other books. Quite frankly, I'm not sure how to navigate the Caliber book site. Maybe that's kind of me admitting a skill issue on my part, but it's not very intuitive, because I was trying to see if I could buy a hard copy of this somehow. But anyway, I think this is a really interesting set of rules, really nice, and like I said, this isn't like an in-depth kind of review with, from me playing it. I just mostly wanted to share it. Now that I've made this video, and this is actually take 2, because I had sound. I wasn't had the microphone disabled when I did the first take. But anyway, I think if I use this, I may do this to wargame out the siege of Belgrade in 1734, which is, or excuse me, the 1739, which was kind of an upset, where the Ottomans recaptured Belgrade from Austria, and they fought the Russians and the Austrians at the same time. The Ottomans did. So even though there's no Ottoman army list in this book, for my purposes, that might be interesting to try and use those to wargame. Although, this is about 20 years, 25 years before the 7 Years' War, but it might work actually. But anyway, I think if you're interested in this period, you should check this out. Like I said, I didn't see any other videos about this on YouTube, so I thought I'd share it, and and see if other people want to check this out. You can. I found that it is on War Games Vault, PDF version for $30 US, and then I did see a used hard copy on Noble Knight. It was a little pricey though, and maybe you still can order it from Partisan Press, Caliber Books, but I honestly don't know how. So if anybody has any recommendations, feel free to comment. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. This little overview of Die Kriegskunst, and I'll talk to you in the next video.